Hey, back to Show Me a Sign by Anne Claire Lizotte, and we are on chapter 22. By my rough estimation, it's been at least 3 weeks since I was stolen from my rightful place in Chilmark. Almost 2 weeks traveling and 8 days of monotonous chores at the inn. I miss Mama's cranberry muffins, the way that she spoons the batter so that each muffin contains the same amount of fruit. I miss waking up and going to the kitchen in my mob cap and shawl to see what Mama's baking. I close my eyes for a moment and I imagine her looking up from the kneading dough in the warm light of the hearth. If I ever complained about helping Mama with chores, strike me down. Most of the time I'm kept in the kitchen. The smells from boiled beef and cabbage permeate my clothing and hair. Living on an island and eating fresh shellfish and cod daily, I never knew why people complained of a fishy odor until I tasted one of the landlady's fish pie. She keeps it sitting too long. She rolls and bakes... The rolls that she bakes daily mitigate the smell. I call her Mrs. Muffins. Despite the charming name, I cringe every time she raises her hand. I never know what will set her off. Does she imagine that she can unblock my ears by boxing them? Boxing means like to take your hand like this, like cup it, and go over somebody's ear. So that's what she's been doing to Mary. Ever since we arrived in Boston, I haven't been able to make up a story. Dreams no longer bother my sleep. I'm too exhausted from housework. I remember nothing in the morning. Is this how Helen and Sally feel working in homes like the Skiffs? How do they keep up good cheer? I haven't washed my gown and shift since I've arrived, and the stench even offends me. I'm grateful for my room that it does not contain a looking glass. When I'm not in the kitchen, I dust. Due to the open fires, dust is everywhere. I use a chamois cloth and then shake it out. When the cloth is too dirty, I put it in the laundry bag. When we have a pile of dirty cloths and bed sheets, we wash them. The chores never end. Today, when I finish dusting, Mrs. Muffins has me bring Andrew a warm mug of rum. And as usual, he's in the parlor writing. A sealed jar of Chilmark water is next to him on the table. He looks me up and down with cruel disgust. My fears that he would examine my person have not come to pass. Was I brought as a live specimen for his correspondent? Who is this person? When will he appear? When Andrew drops some of his papers, I stoop to pick them up. He kicks my backside. Bruises already bloom on my arms and ribs from the pinches and jabs that he subjects me to every time he moves past. In the kitchen, while we wash bed sheets, Mrs. Muffins hands me the bucket for more hot water. I watch her mouth to understand the words for hot and water. I can almost recognize them. And then she starts talking about something unrelated, and I'm lost again. She talks constantly. I remember seeing Ezra Brewer standing on top of a cliff on a windy day, signing with broad strokes to fishermen on the beach below. He asked them how many fish they'd caught. It's easy to understand each other with signs. When Mrs. Muffins wants me out of the way, to go out on errands, or if I've accidentally burned a tray of rolls, she locks me in my room for hours. I had hoped that Mama and Papa and Ezra Brewer would have rescued me by this time. What if they never find me? If only I could steal rag paper, a quill pen, and some ink from Andrew's room. I could implore Mrs. Muffins for help. But I fear she's loyal to Andrew. I've noticed that she keeps her ledger close by at all times, going over her accounts. Or else she locks it in the desk in the parlor. It would appear to be nearly impossible to lay my hands on it. The boarder, Mr. Squints, may be my only hope. When I have a moment free from chores, I watch him around the corner. He catches my eye and nods in a friendly fashion. He seems curious. At first, Andrew doesn't notice that Mr. Squints is genial toward me. I know that this will not last long, and Mrs. Muffins keeps me so busy with chores that I have nary a moment for myself to try to figure out how to communicate with him. If I seem distressed, will he try to help me out? Or will he go to Andrew or Mrs. Muffins out of good but mistaken will? I must discover his intentions. There she is, spying again. I love that about her. Serving porridge and rolls with tea one morning, I linger in the dining room. The space is cramped. 6 chairs at a round table and a sideboard loaded with chipped dishes and cups. A grimy etching of the harbor hangs on the wall. I take my time finding a trivet to lay under the teapot. I feel a low din. When I look up, I see Andrew laughing. He has 2 tin plates in his hands. I guess he banged them together to mock my deafness. I quickly glance at Mr. Squints. He looks at Andrew with visible disgust, and when he meets my eyes, his face reddens. He knows I'm deaf, and he's upset to see me disgraced. Thank you, Lord Almighty. I hope to leave him a note in his bedroom when I make his bed, but if he has paper and a pen, I don't know how to find them. And I must finish my task quickly before Mrs. Muffins boxes my ears. They've become so sore that I have to sleep on my back. When I go to tidy the parlor before bed, I see a Bible left open on the table. I pick it up and I read Proverbs 31, verses 8 to 9. Open your mouth for the mute, or the rights of all who are destitute. Open your mouth. Judge righteously. Defend the rights of the poor and the needy. Reverend Lee wouldn't view all deaf people as destitute and presume to speak for us. He wouldn't see muteness as the absence of oral speech, but rather the condition of those who feel lost and unheard. Wow, that's beautiful. I wonder if this is a message from Mr. Squints. If he's interested in the rights of the poor and needy, maybe he'll help me.